I am in Houston, Texas again, and I am talking with one of the most exciting pound for pound fighters on the women's regional MMA scene. She joins me here today. Of course, I am talking about Miss Rainn Guerrero. Rainn, thank you so much for being here. I have to say, I thought you guys were like had that gorilla vibe going on, but you got a snake shirt on, so I got to ask you, what's going on with that? I was expecting a gorilla on the shirt. You're throwing me a curveball.
Actually, Millie stole this from my teammate Madison, and I stole it from her. So you might want to ask her.
All right.
Where this came from, but yeah,
hey.
Rick, and now it's on my body. So.
Well, it's a community shirt. That's not surprising. I know. I think I have a pretty good feel for how the gym works, where you're training out of. And I have to ask, first and foremost, you have a fight that's coming up in the near future. You're going to be competing at River Throwdown 19 in Lacrosse, Wisconsin. Can you, before we get into who you are, what you're all about, and then the cool questions we got, I kind of wanted to ask, how excited are you for this fight? It's a big opportunity against a really game opponent, and just kind of where you are at this point in your career. You're maybe one, maybe two fights away from getting a call up to the big time. So it's got to be a really exciting moment for you at this point in your career.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely excited. Right now I'm actually honestly, I'm in the point of just I'm just ready to fight. I got 3 more weeks, 2 weeks of hard training, one fight week. I'm just excited to showcase the growth and everything that everything I've been putting in this whole time, because in my last 2 fights I still felt like I didn't perform to my true potential, and there was a lot of things that I have been working on that didn't show, and now I'm just kind of at the point where it's all coming together, and I'm just ready to display this type of fight. I'm fighting Oliva Beeskau, I think you say something. So Olivia, right? I'm fighting Olivia, and she's a hardcore grappler. She's very pressure fighter, and she likes to be on the ground. And so, not that a pressure fighter is something that I haven't seen before, but someone that's just relentless trying to get you to the ground is something that I haven't seen in an opponent yet. So I'm very excited to to just showcase my skills in that type of fight. Yeah, like you said, there's talks, 1 or 2 more and stuff like that. I'm not really focused on that. I getting to the next level. It's not it's not an if, it's a win. And so I'm just kind of taking, fight by fight and just day by day. And I'm just here for the journey,
One of the things that I wanted to point out, and it was one thing that when I think of you, I think of 135 pounds right away. And then it didn't click until later on. I'm researching, preparing for this interview with you. And I'm like, wait a minute, she's going down to 25. And I got really excited because I was always thinking to myself in the back of my mind, to me, that is the most natural weight class for you, given your size, just given your height, just all things considered. And I think you have certain things to your game that most 25ers aren't going to see. What I mean specifically by that is I don't think any real flyweight in the women's division, and I would go as far as to say even at the UFC level, are as accustomed to getting hit as hard as you can hit. I think that's a huge thing. I think that's a huge ability of yours that you can definitely leverage at the flyweight division. And I kind of wanted to pick up on that. The cut from 35 to 25, it's still significant. Not everybody could do it. What led you to the point to be open to the idea of going down to flyweight?
Honestly, it was my second professional fight against Annette Nichols.
Mm-hmm.
I fought her at 35 pounds, and her size and how hard she hit was really kind of it was something that my coaches had talked about going down to 25, but in my head I'm like, no, that cut, I can't do it, blah blah blah. When I fought her, and me and her talked after, we're pretty good friends now. She walks around at 165, and to fight girls, with that length and that power and that, it really made me realize okay, bro, maybe I'm not a 35er. It really was that fight that kind of opened my eyes. about the size difference, you know, and it was really because me coming down from 235, like we were talking about, you know, in my head, it's like I'm big, you know, and I have this like self-image of myself. And so when I see myself compared to the girls, it's like I look at them and I think I look at them like we're our same size. But when you look at pictures in the video and I standing next to them, like I'm not. And that was kind of something that I had to realize about myself, that like, hey, you're all that fat, girl. You're really not that big. You're really like, you know, your frame's smaller than Shannon weights. And so it was really that fight. You know, my eyes got swelled shut, you know, just from her jabbing me, dude. She was jabbing me and like white, you know, with her jabs. And so it was that fight that got me open to it. And then we started, you know, I changed my training regimen a little bit. I was more consistent in like the strength and conditioning and more cardio and stuff, started running more miles. And then I got my natural walking around weight a lot lower, when normally I was like cutting, you know, and it's hardcore to like walk around to get to 45 to then try to make the cut to 35. And like now I'm just walking around there just naturally still eating carbs and sugar and shit like that, you know? So it was, it's been a slow process for me. We tried to do 130 these last 2 fights. And then like my last opponent, she called the night before saying she couldn't make 30. So we went back up to 35. I waited at 33 and stuff, but I made it down to 30, you know? So, so I know I can do it, but yeah, this is the first time we're going to go to flyweight. I mean, I'm right on track, you know, it's not going to be the, you know, like the easiest thing, you know, it's not going to be where I just like, oh, sit on the treadmill for 30 minutes, I made weight. Like, no, it's not going to be one of those cuts, but it's definitely possible. Yeah, we definitely do it. I feel about it.
I feel really good about it too. I think it's is unlocking a different level in your game, and the fact that you're able to kind of like sit back and like consider all the circumstances and consider where it is that you want to be. Fighters, some of you all are really stubborn and kind of get lost in your own sauce and whatnot. But I mention that because I see certain people fighting at certain weights. I'm like, dude, you're way too small for this weight. Like you can't, it's probably not the best idea for you. And some of them don't want to hear that. But the fact that you're able to be open to this idea, I think that just shows like you can be coachable. Like you're willing to like sit back and be like, okay, well, like maybe there's a better way. Not everyone's like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's just part of it. That's just part of being an athlete. I think a lot of people just in general in any sport, you know, their ego doesn't allow a lot of things. And I pride myself and I really put intent into being coachable and being open-minded and not thinking that I know everything, because in actuality, I don't know shit.
Well, I do think though, when it comes to fighting, like ego it's something that you have to like, you have to have, like you have to kind of be an egomaniac to be a fighter. Because here's the thing, if you don't think you could be the best in the world, if you don't think you can absolutely like run through anybody, I don't think you have any business going in that cage. You really don't. Like if you go into that cage with that mindset, like, wow, like I could get like really freaking hurt today, this person could paralyze me or something like that. Like this isn't the sport for you. So it's like you kind of have to know when to turn it on and like kind of pump yourself up, but then you kind of have to know like when to turn it off, and like knowing when to flip that switch or flip it off, that's got to be kind of hard to do sometimes.
Yeah, the finding the balance of confidence and also being humble, you know, being confident and also realistic.
Yeah.
It's an art. it's find it, man, because yeah, you can be too much one or the other and it'll get you hurt. So
yeah, exactly. I think it's all about balance. And I wanted to go into our mailbag because I put out an Instagram story. I mentioned that you were coming on this show, and we did get a few questions, and I wanted to ask you a few of them. And one of them was actually it was about just like a typical day for you. So I know that you work out, like you have a regular 9 to 5, but then all the training commitments on top of that. So the first question was, how are you, like, what is a typical day like for you? Like you're a full-time fighter essentially, but you're also like, you have a normal 9 to 5 that you have to do to like pay your rent and keep your lights on. So like, what does a typical day look like for you?
My typical day throughout the week, I'll wake up about 4:45. I'll be at my apartment gym in the morning by like 5:15. I'll run 4 to 5 miles depending how much time I got. I'll do it slow, you know. I try to do like fat burning miles, keep my heart rate at a certain level, you know. So I'll do that. I'll go back, I'll shower, be at work by 7. I work all day until about 4:30. I get off, go home, let my dog out, get my training stuff, and then I'll be at the gym from about like 5:30, just a couple hours, man, maybe 2 to 3, you know, just depending on what day and what class and what I got, what coaches I got and stuff like that. So that's like Monday through Thursday. I think the time, right, it just depends on the day of the week or the time I'll get out the gym. And then I'll go home and go back to my apartment gym and run a little bit more or do like some weights or something, you know. That's my Monday through Thursday. Friday nights after work, I'll go to Coach Adams' house, and I'll be in the dungeon for 2 hours. And then on Saturday morning, I'll be at war from 9 a.m. doing mitts, and then we'll drill at 10 for an hour, and then we'll spar for an hour, and then I'll get out there about 12:30. I'll go home, I'll shower, probably run again at Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, hopefully at 8 a.m.
Do you?
And then,
I think that's like amazing. Like you're figuring out a way to like make everything happen, and at some point though, like they're like you're living that like fight lifestyle that you have to live, but then you're doing all like this like work stuff on top of that. Do you ever like, I don't know if burnout's the right word, but like do you ever feel like a need to like mentally or physically reset? Like does there ever come a time where it's just kind of like, you know what, like I'm gonna have a margarita and I'm gonna like lay it by my pool and read a book today?
not in camp, no. I know if I do 7 days a week, and if I have a rest day, it's like a light day, and then I'll go do an ice bath at Copley's and, you know, run maybe 2 miles at night instead of 5 or something like that, you know. But when I have a fight, man, I go 7 days a week. After camp, yeah, I'll have maybe like a week where I'll just be in the gym maybe 2-3 times a week, and I'll probably be eating late that week and stuff. And like I said, like drinking margaritas, but I can't have too long of that. Yeah, I can't have too long of that because I gain weight very quick.
Yeah.
So I like to have about a week after my fights, just kind of, you know, visit family, go back home to San Antonio, see everyone, and then I gotta get right back. Because the way my career is like I'll get a fight and then the girl will drop out, and then I'll get booked 6 weeks later, and then that girl will drop out, and then I'll get booked 4 weeks later, and then that fight goes through. So it's like, you know, like last time before this last fight, man, I was in camp for like 9 months straight having that situation. So yeah, I mean, I guess every now and then after a fight, I will have a week like that. But like I said, the way my career is, it's just, it keeps going. I never really have like a rest period or rest time, you know. There's always something that I'm working towards. So, but no, I mean, I will, like, if I don't have a fight coming up, I'll go get a daiquiri for sure.
Absolutely. That sounds delicious. I wanted to hit up on something. I think like in doing my research about you and just kind of like learning about who you are and like what you came from, like you didn't always look like the way that you look now. Like obviously I look at you and you're like, yeah, obviously, like, yeah, you're an athlete. I could tell just by looking at you, but you didn't always. Like you were a fat kid at one point and you were like obese, 200 plus pounds. Like you were probably like the average American, honestly, at one point. And it's sad to say, but like you look like the typical person I would see like on the sidewalk at all points of the day. Like we have an obesity epidemic in this country. I'm a chubby dude myself, and it's something that I'm mindful of. It's like, oh man, like I know I'm never going to fight or whatever, but at the same time, it's like, if I don't do things, if I don't make certain decisions, like I'm going to like stroke out and I'm going to freaking die in my cube at desk in my office space or whatever. Right. So one of the things I kind of wanted to ask is like fat people in particular, and I'll throw myself in the category. So it's like there's like this vicious cycle. Like you're chubby and you know you don't look like the best, but then on top of that, it's like you're depressed because you're fat, and then like when you're depressed, what do? You want to eat, right? Because like food makes us feel good, and it's like this vicious fucking cycle, and it doesn't really end. But then at some point, it's like how big are you going to get, and like how disgusted with yourself are you going to get before you like get to a point of like, okay, I for real, like I have to do something different. So I wanted to ask, like, your journey, you've lost over 100 pounds to get to this point, which is freaking fantastic. You might be the first or second, you're probably like the second person or third person I know that's lost that amount of weight ever in my entire life. Like, what would you say to somebody who's like feeling like shit? They're chubby, they're fat, whatever the case may be. Listen, hey, not all of us are going to be fighters. Not all of us are going to go down your path. But what would you just say to that like regular Joe or that regular person out there that's just like, man, I feel like shit and I want to like do better? Like, what would you say having lived that life for so long?
Talking to a lot of people that ask me for advice on, weight loss and stuff like that. The common thing that I realize with people is that it's ignorance. Most people were never taught how to eat, right? And me included. I didn't know anything about nutrition before I started martial arts. So I would say just start with the education, man. Because like I said, most people they just don't know. And so I would say start educating yourself and take it one meal at a time. That's really where it starts, man. You just gotta take it one meal at a time. My Fitness Pal is something that I recommend to everybody, and everyone gets all like, "Oh, I don't want to calories and blah blah blah." Well, okay, I'm sorry, like you have to, you have to know what's in your mouth and stuff. And I would just say to the average regular person that's feeling like shit, want to get off the couch, is you have to change your perspective and perceive the pain, right? The pain that comes with it. Perceive that as like an investment to yourself, right? It's like self-love has to come above your want for that cake and the comfort eating and stuff like that. And it's really, like I said, like start perceiving the diet and the exercise as a self-commitment and an act of self-love. And it'll really change your perspective and be so much as like I get to do this and I want to do this, rather than like, oh, have to do this, and that mindset and that perspective is everything. And it's the reason why a lot of people can't go through.
Yeah.
And and also just know that like no one's perfect, bro. Like I can show you my fitness graph of my weight loss journey, and bro, it's like this. It looks like a cryptocurrency chart. I don't know if you're into that, but it looks it looks like that, man. And so like no one's perfect, but man, like you just every day, man, you gotta do your best every single day. And like, hey, there's really no way around hard work. And I think that's something that people need to realize up front. It's not gonna be painless, dude. It's gonna hurt, it's gonna suck, but like you're gonna feel, bro. You just have to pick your hard, right? It's like that saying, like you pick your hard, because being healthy is hard and being sick is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like pick one. But I would say just stay consistent and perceive that self-love and just take it one day at a time.
I think it's an amazing story. I think that's what makes you so relatable, is because people look at that and they see like a whole different like realm of potential possibilities just by observing what you've been able to accomplish. And I think it's something that everyone should kind of like pause and think about, because for like most of us, like life goes on, like we have like kids, we have like a mortgage, we have a regular 9 to 5, right? And it's like you get home from all of that, and it's like really easy to like get sucked up in the convenience of life, where it's like, oh, we can just go to Chick-fil-A and like get a bunch of sandwiches and I'll feed my family. And it's easy. It's easy to eat like shit because they make it so easy and they make it so goddamn delicious, right? So it's like that's how they get you. They get you on the convenience and they get you on the ease factor. But like one of the things is like, again, you have to choose your heart, right? So it's like, you can get that short-term convenience, right? And that short-term, like, oh, this food tastes delicious, but then you feel like shit afterward, right? So the investment would be like, okay, well, you might get like, I like, you can still cook up delicious food. It just takes you time. You have to have a game plan. That's all.
Yeah. Having a routine is definitely imperative for me. I meal prep every Sunday, and a grocery shop meal prep every Sunday, and it takes me a little bit. It takes me a few hours, but I do it religiously every Sunday, and it's just being prepared and having the routine, and that I think getting that down is probably will be the hardest part, but once it's a habit, dude, it's just everyday life. It's just like you wake up and brush your teeth, like, you know, it just becomes everyday life. And gotta, you know, be disciplined. Like I said, having a routine, it really is the key for me.
I think, you know, those are wise words. I think anybody who is overweight and is looking to try to like change their life and do something different, you know, really marinate on what you just said and think about, like, you don't have to be perfect. You said something really cool about, you know, a stock market effect of sorts. Like, things are going to happen. You don't have to be perfect. All you have to do is just get started and be willing to make some changes. That's basically it. I know that's what I'm doing. And for me, it's, I keep it really simple. Drink a lot of water, watch the fast food. Like, if I could just do those things for right now, then it's like, okay, like, then what's next? And I'm just going to start scaling up slowly, you know?
Yeah, and that's a very good it's a very good way to start it, because I also see people that try to go like just try to do cold turkey and just do everything 100% right, and they last for a few days and then they start binging, right? And it's, you know, it's just important, man. Just take it baby steps, like you said, man. Just cut the fast food, and then once you get that down, then it's like, you know, you start progressing after that. And I would say keep in mind like what I call the caveman diet. Mm-hmm. So anything a caveman could eat, then you can eat, you know. But fruits, vegetables, meats, you know. So things from the earth, you know.
So you're saying no like bacon cheeseburgers or enchiladas? Probably not.
Fortunately, pizza does not make that list.
Oh, that's upsetting. But you know what? Hey, it's all worth it in the long run. And I wanted to like shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about your journey as a fighter. It's really fascinating to see, and you've only been doing this for such a short amount of time. And the results like almost immediately are there. And I'll be really honest with you. Sometimes, like, I'm a big advocate of women's MMA. I really am. I think my favorite weight class, I like the lower weight classes because everyone's fast, and it's like watching like Manny Pacquiao in his prime. Like, everything's happening really fast. These fights are typically really, really violent. There aren't a lot of finishes, but they're still really good fights, and they're really cool to see. Then generally, as you like get up the weight classes, then it gets a little bit more boring. You don't really see a lot of finishes in women's MMA though, like unless you're talking about that 45-pound class. PFL has a 55-pound class, so they exist. They're up there, but like you're not really big, but you finish people. Like, you have a reputation for finishing people. You don't see that very often in women's MMA. And I have to ask, like, you came from a jiu-jitsu school. You lived in San Antonio before you moved to Houston. When did you find out that like you had these like hands of like steel that like put people to sleep? Because that's the one thing I noticed right away. Like, you look at your fight history, you go on YouTube, you look at your fights, it's like you hit freaking hard. I don't think people realize how hard you hit until they're actually sparring against you, or God forbid, they're actually fighting you.
Man, I don't know, man. It's weird because that's what people tell me. They tell me I hit hard and stuff, you know, past opponents and stuff. You know, we talk after and training partners and everything. But like, if you've ever hit a home run, you don't feel it, right?
Yeah, it just happens. That's how it is. Yeah.
That's how it is. It just like it just doesn't feel like as powerful as what the person receiving it feels like. So in my head, I just like, I don't know. But I think it has a lot to do with coming down from a big weight. I feel like I just think it has something to do with it. And I also think like maybe like, you know, my heart having to be so big to pump through all like the big body. It's like, it's still all powerful. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I kind of just found out on the job, right? I mean, you know, when the fur fell down, I was like, oh, okay.
Hey, I think it's fantastic. Like, that was a really quick thing. Like, you're going through your amateur career, just chewing through people, and you only really encounter adversity for the very first time in your entire fighting career at Peak Fighting 7 when you fought Annette Nichols. I know that was a fight that didn't go your way, and then for you, it was kind of like a game changer in a sense. Can you talk about like what was it about that fight not necessarily the loss so much, but like how did it impact your career and like take you on this path that you find yourself on today?
Definitely the Annette fight was a turning point for me as far as what I did outside of camp. How I ate, how I basically just how I lived in between fights. That one, I know we're coming off the pandemic, and I had got kind of heavy. I got to like maybe like in the 60s, and then I took the fight, and you know it was a hard cut to 35, and going against someone that was as in shape as her, as big as her, as long as her, you know, it really, it changed the course of the way I trained out in between fights. And it really put into perspective to me about the weight classes. And that was when my journey to 25 started. It was after that fight. There's definitely a power difference. There's a range difference. I was hitting her as hard as I could, and she wasn't going down. And you know what I mean? And she was knotted up, man. We fucked each other up, and she was, man, in her phrase, but it seemed like her just little boop jabs was stunning me, and I'm throwing hard overhands and kind of taking them and walking forward. So that fight really put into perspective about the weight classes, and really changed how I trained, everything I did, you know, playing with all the little stuff that I was slacking on, you know, like just partying too much because I didn't have a fight locked in and stuff like that. And like that all changed after that fight. And then I was also tired of going freaking having 3-round wars. I was done with that. You know, my first professional fight was against Deborah Kuzman. She was an undefeated Golden Gloves boxer that also used to wrestle in whatever school she did. And we actually ended up having a fight of the year for XKO. But that was the first time that I even had to go 3 rounds, right? Because all my amateur fights I had finished pretty quick. And so then having that war, and back to back having the Annette war, and having my eyes swelled shut, I was like, you know what, dude, I'm done with this. I'm over it. Like, we're gonna change some things. So yeah, that really changed the course of, like I said, all the extras, all the extra bullshit I was doing. I just had to cut that shit.
One of the things that is so interesting, like for you, like you don't lose. Not at MMA, you don't lose, and it's really one of the things I always kind of wonder about, particularly when people are just like getting started on their path, is like, okay, if you aren't losing, it's great. But on the other hand, it's like, man, I hope they're getting their ass whipped in that gym every single day. I hope they're staying humble. I hope they're learning every single day, because some people aren't like that. Some people can kind of get a little, I don't want to say ahead of themselves, but it's hard to like change, and it's hard to like evolve when things are going well all the time. And for you, I kind of wanted to like key back on that. You talked about the Nichols fight being something like, man, I got to change shit up. Like, this isn't going to work. And this, in order for me to get to the next level, I'm going to have to make some changes. But like, when things are going good and stuff all the time, can you talk a little bit about that? Because like, how do you learn? Like, that fight happened almost a year and a half ago. And you know, your last 2 fights, 2 quick finishes again. After a while, it's like it kind of becomes like a distant memory. Maybe it's like that old girl that like broke up with me, and I got really sad about it when I was like in high school. A girl broke up with me, like, oh man, I'm all emo, she broke up with me. But then I moved on, I forget about it. So I gotta ask, like, is fighting the same way? Like, when you lose a fight, you go emo for a little while, or like, is it like breaking up with a guy or something? Like, I was just curious how that works.
Definitely. It actually took me about 3 months to even watch the film from the Nichols.
Okay.
Yeah. I just did not want to watch it. I was disappointed. I was like hurt. I still think on the like, I made a crucial error in the 3rd round of that fight. I let her up. I took her down and I let her up, right? And that did the difference. And honestly, I let her up because she was fucking strong, and I felt like I was about to get swept. Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to do was be.
I don't want this chick on top of me. Yeah.
So in that split second, I felt her strongest on the ground, and I felt I was gonna get swept, and so I was like, "Fuck it, I would take my chance on the feet." And like that was the turning point of the fight, and I feel like that's why I lost the fight. But when you go back and watch that film, I mean, it's a close fight. It's a close fight, and but if I had to lose to anyone, I'm glad that it was Annette. She's a sweetheart, and she's actually just retired. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah, she just lost a split decision for Peak maybe last weekend, and she laid down her gloves. She's done. Sweet girl, man. I hope she ends up coming back, taking another one and stuff. But shit, what was, oh no. So you were saying about evolving and stuff when things are hard. Yeah, I get my ass kicked every day. I get my ass
good.
kicked.
I'm glad. No offense.
I was crying in practice like on Wednesday, you know, just in the middle of the fucking rounds. I'm going with Josh Snow, and we're hardcore. We're like, you know, 3 rounds deep into however many rounds we're doing, and I'm fucking crying, dude. I am so fatigued. I'm so exhausted, and like we just kept going, man. We just kept going, and like yeah, I get my ass kicked all the time. So when I go in and I have these quick finish fights, it's like, oh, okay. But I don't go in there like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. It's just like, bro, like, yeah, I'm in there to fucking fight, and I'm prepared for a 3-round war because I've just had a whole camp of war, and that's what that's what I'm in there to do. And so when I have a quick finish, it's not that like I don't expect it, but I didn't go in there, you know, I didn't go in there just thinking, oh, first round finish, it just come out, you know.
Yeah.
When things go good, it's just it's a nice reward to the hard camp that I have. But I mean, my life is very draining, you know. And so I go through a lot of downs, you know, in fight camps and stuff. I'm tired. I get emotional, you know. I get like, shit just starts making me sad more so than they normally would, you know. I go through a lot of downs for it. So I don't ever really feel like I'm just on like a high. I kind of have maybe like, you know, on celebrate the next day, deal with all like the messages and the blah, 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 blah. And then come Monday, man, we're back at it. And then like, Copley's bring me back down, you know, telling me how much that fucking drill sucked, and I'm right back in reality. And it really doesn't, yeah, it doesn't really feel like I ride like a high wave too much. It's kind of, in my perspective, it's like I'm always in an uphill battle, you know. And like I said, it's my training partner, dude. I train with some fucking killers. So
yes,
like,
you do. I am very familiar with the people that you train with. I've had them both on my show. People still don't know quite yet. Unless you're in Texas, you don't know who they are. But give it a couple more years, they'll figure it out. Your boy's fighting at CFFC this week, and they're about to find out who the fuck he is real soon. People don't know about him yet, but I tell you what, anytime a coach tells me like, check out my fighter, they're so fucking good, blah blah blah, I'm like, yeah, all right, bro, like, okay. But for Adam, I checked it out, right? I was like, I kind of didn't really know him all that well at the time, so I kind of like blew it off at first, but then like I was like, I'll humor this dude. Let me see. I saw Karan Reed fight. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, this guy is one of the, like, I was watching his amateur fights. I was like, you could tell me like this kid was like a ranked UFC 35er, and I believe you. Like, that's how good this guy is. I was completely blown away. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, I'll listen to you now. Like, you're not bullshitting me. Like, yeah. Like, this kid is 100% legit.
Ron is good, man. He is solid. He is a very well-rounded. He's very technical. He has very, very high fight IQ. Man, his injuries, right, is why he's been prolonged in his pro debut. But man, if anything, it was a blessing in disguise, because he's just been getting better and better and better. And in the shadows too, like you said, no one knows him, you know, unless you're hardcore into the regional scene and stuff like that. But yeah, man,
if you're not in Houston, you don't know who he is, like, because Fury's there, and I get all that. So I was supposed to see him fight, and I got really excited, but it got canceled. He was supposed to fight on the same card as Murphy, and it didn't happen. Yeah, that was sad.
Love that guy. Murphy's a killer.
Oh, well, that was another guy. I couldn't believe how fucking tough that guy is. That kid is fucking tough. That was the one thing that stood up. That's one thing that like stands out when I think of Mike Murphy. I think of like just toughness. Like, this is a guy who you can punch him, he's gonna keep walking forward. I love that guy.
What about Murphy the most is he is such a killer, and he's just like a dog. But he is in person, he's a gentleman, like a Southern gentleman. Very sweet. He's very respectful. You know what I'm saying? He's just like, man, he's just a genuinely like a cool ass. He's just like a Southern gentleman, dude.
Yeah.
He's cool as fuck. But get him in that cage, man. It's different. Yeah, he's a different animal.
Oh, he turns it on. He absolutely turns it on. Rainn, one of the things, like when you like reflect back on like your entire career and all the things that you have learned, if there's like another gal that's like an amateur out there, and let's say they're in some random ass spot like in Alaska or something like that, and they're watching this today, like what would you tell somebody that's just like getting ready to like go down this pathway? Maybe they have like an AME fight or two under their belt and they like want to like get at your level one day. What is something that you would tell to a young gal that's trying to follow your path?
The young aspiring, man, just be patient with yourself, you know. Don't compare yourself to other people's journey or skill set. And I would say find your limit every day and push a little bit more. And do that every single day. And like you'll look up and be like, oh shit, I can't believe like I got this far. I can't believe I accomplished this and blah, blah, blah. But if you just put your head down, like I said, man, find your limits and push a little bit more. And that's, it doesn't matter, right? I tell people, especially if they're, you know, overweight, trying to lose weight, and that's just their goal, whatever. I tell them it doesn't matter, you know, if it's 1 lap or if it's 10 miles, whatever gets you to that point of exhaustion, push yourself there and then go just a little bit more, dude. And it doesn't matter what it took to get you to that level. If you hit that deep water, that's what it is. Like you just, the goal is to hit the deep waters every day. And that's all you got to do, man.
I think that's so relatable, even to people who aren't athletes, because it's like all you have to do, if all you can do is like run to the end of your driveway, and if that's like your like deep water for you, if that's where you feel like you're about to like drown, then perfect. Then the next day it's like, okay, well then make it maybe to the middle of the street, make it across the street, and then just incrementally build up. I think that's so important because there's so many people, and myself included, sometimes it's like you're going to look at it and you're going to see your neighbor down the street and he runs like, 15 miles every day. And you're like, oh man, and I feel like such a piece of shit because I can barely make it down my driveway. But you're comparing yourself to somebody who's way further in the game than you are. And that's just a recipe for disaster. You shouldn't be setting yourself to somebody else's standards.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really important, I think, just in life, but especially martial arts. Yeah, you can't be chasing tail forever, man. You just got it's you versus you, you know.
I want to say one of the things though about martial arts is it's a really fascinating business in the sense where it is about you, like, but there's also I do consider it a team sport. I know it sounds freaking crazy to people, and I never understood until I started covering this sport why fighters would use like pronouns like we or we did this. So I'm like, wait a minute, there's like one person there's two people in the cage. What the fuck are they talking about? But then I like got to know, and I understand the mentality now. Because you're talking about every single person that gave up time out of their schedule to work with you to get you better, and to prep you for this. Like you're talking about people that flew in from the opposite side of the country to work specifically for you. Now, I know that you've done that for other people as well. So it was just one of the things I pick up on, and it just blows me away. And one of the things that your coaches told me is just like your development and how far that you've gotten. And you were supposed to, like, I know that you got tagged to be like an alternate for the Ultimate Fighter, but I don't really watch the Ultimate Fighter. I think it's kind of cornball personally. I'm old and bald, so don't worry about what I have to say. But I do watch the fights. I just, all the real world shit I don't care about, but I do watch the fights. And having looked at that, like, I knew that you were an alternate at the time, but then like once it started like recording, I was like, oh, all right. Then I kind of became less and less interested. But seeing those girls fight at 25, like there has to be a point of you where it's like, man, I know I'm fucking good enough to be in there with them. Like there is nothing else I can do to like prove my worth. Like I have the resume. I have done all these other things. Like I deserve that opportunity too. So in a way, it's kind of it's got to be a little frustrating. If I get frustrated, like, and I'm a random dude that gets frustrated, that's got to be a totally different level of frustration for somebody who's putting in the work like you. Like you should get those opportunities.
Yeah, You know, me personally, I watched the first fight between what's her name? Helen and I forget. But the first fight of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was matched up with the tall girl. I forget her name, Christine something. Anyway, I was matched up with her for Fury, and she pulled out like a few weeks before, and we asked why she pulled out. She said personal reasons.
And it was
that was the only thing she. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that, because the Ultimate Fighter was like maybe 2-3 months later.
Oh, so she must have
Something like
gotten
that.
like a call and was like, "You're too risky now." Because if I fight you and I get fucked up, then you could fuck up my Ultimate Fighter stuff.
Something, man. I don't know what happened, but to see her make it, see her fight, and then see how trash the fight was. I didn't watch any of the fights after that. I was like, fuck that. You guys are stressing me out. But I mean, it's frustrating, but at the same time, like, I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. And you know, who knows? I could have gone on the show and torn an ACL or some shit. You know, like everything happens for a reason. And so I've like, you know, I've accepted it, kind of moved on now, and it's just like, hey, like, I'm gonna see those girls. You know,
Yes, you will.
well, yeah, we're gonna meet each other soon. So, you know, I'm not worried about it more. But at first, yeah, like, are you fucking serious? Like, you guys cut me for that? Like, but hey, you know, I'll probably get a better deal getting in now since it's not through there. You know.
Well, because the other thing to think about is you don't have to go on that. You don't have to deal with like a lot of the drama, right? And it's like they could just call you and be like, "Yo, like, can you make 25 and can you fight in 3 weeks?" Great. Then we have an undercard spot for you at a UFC Fight Night show. Like, perfect. Like, there are tons of ways to get in. And I'm sure that's in the back of your mind where it's like, okay, and I can only imagine that is why you're like working your ass off so much. It's like, I can't get lazy. I can't get complacent, because I could get a call at any point. I could get a call literally tomorrow and they could be like, yo, like, someone got hurt. I mean, can you fucking go? And you're fighting Miranda Maverick next week. It's possible.
Short notice is the new name of the game, right?
Exactly.
You're expected to be ready for a short notice at all time. You're expected to be ready year round, and knowing that and living that every day has definitely changed for me over this past year. That was something that I was struggling with. Like I said, like the Annette fight really did change that for me. But now having all the talks with my manager, my coaches, and the reality that I could get that call here in the next like 3 months, you know, it really does change the way that I live, you know. So I'm waking up at 5 a.m. Like you said, I'm just grinding it out because it's such a real possibility. You know, it's like the reality is right fucking there, and it's a little bit yeah.
Do you can you watch, like, I do ask because some don't. I don't think it's a dumb question. Can you watch the UFC? Like, can you watch Flyweights or no? Like UFC Flyweights, can you watch them? Because some people I know, they're like, I'm better than these fucking people. I get irritated. I don't want to watch this, and then they don't. So like,
no, I watch it and I think about myself in first person in the cage against them. And I'm like, I think about, because I'm going to be there, you know. But no, I watch it.
So I get really excited when I think about you, and I think about the flyweight division because it's so wide open. Like, I feel like there's a lot of room for girls to go in there, and you could find yourself. It's not unrealistic on your debut fight. You could fight a ranked girl. It's a very real possibility in that weight class. That has got to be kind of exciting for you, because like when you think about some of these other ones, like for example, 35 for males, lightweight, welterweight, you're talking about really deep classes. But women's MMA, like, there is no such thing as a deep class. You can find yourself with a ranked person right away, and that's got to be like really exciting.
Yeah, it is. I just I try not to get like overwhelmed by the thought, and you know, just think about like these big shoes I got to fill. Man, I go to practice, I grind my ass off, and I talk to my coaches about what went wrong or went right, and we just, you know, work on it the next day. And I really just keep my mindset like that, you know, because when you start to think about like, you know, the end journey or, you know, your destination and stuff like that, it can get overwhelming, you know, and you start psyching yourself out and put all this extra pressure on yourself. And so I try not to do that. I just try to think of like, hey, I need to work on this. Can we drill this? And like, it just keep going like.
Absolutely. The only thing that that should be in the forefront of your mind right now is September 10th. I know it's a big day for you, and it's going to be an opportunity to leave Texas, go to Wisconsin as B-side, because I'm assuming she's from Wisconsin, and show people what you're capable of. And I like the idea of you leaving Texas to go fight, because guess what? You're going to go into an environment where nobody wants to see you win. They're all there for the other girl. I guess it's good because you don't have to worry about selling tickets or anything like that. But at the same time, like, you're being brought in B-side. And I think that's an experience every fighter should have to like go through at some point. Some people don't want to fight outside their backyard, and here you are going to some random ass place in Wisconsin.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm really looking forward to this experience because it's much needed in my career to where I'm trying to get to fighting someone in their hometown, right? When you don't have anyone hearing your name, fighting someone that's going to relentlessly be trying to put me on my back. Dealing with the situation that I haven't had to do before. I'm looking forward to the experience. I'm looking forward to the growth that's going to come with it. It is, this is the first time I'll be on a plane. I've never been on a plane
No
before
shit,
in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
that's...
I go to the States, but I've never been on a plane. And
it's terrible. It's terrible.
So I'm really excited. Like I said, for the growth that is going to come from this fight. And I have much respect for my opponent, Olivia.
Absolutely.
On paper, this isn't the smartest fight for her, but I believe that she's a very strong, confident in what she knows how to do, and I think she's gonna come bring it to me. She's gonna give me everything she got, and I'm gonna do the same for her. So, I much respect to her, but I'm looking forward to sitting her down.
How can people watch your fight if they are in Texas, or if they're like me in Washington, D.C.? Like, how can we watch your fight on the 10th if we're not in Wisconsin?
Yeah, there's a pay-per-view link. I can send it to you because I kind of don't remember it. It's like www.bit/ly.3 Throwdown, I believe.
Okay.
Something like that. There's a pay-per-view link that we should be able to post somewhere. But it shouldn't be more than like $25 or something like that. But yeah, there'll be a pay-per-view link that the promotion is going to be streaming on, so you guys can catch me there, and please select me as your fighter when you get that pay-per-view. Thank you.
There we go. And what other shout outs do we need to get out of the way with before I let you go? Because I know that I'm sure you got a lot of them.
Big shout out to all my sponsors. Colt 45, Power Shift Automotives, Creative Concepts, Construction. Let me see who else I got. JD and Associates. My tax guy, he's been with me for years. TCAP Daiquiris, daiquiri shop in San Antonio. Love them. They have a flavor called the Bully, so go ahead and get that. It's very delicious. It's purple and very juicy. Let's see. Oh, shout out to Snow Grappling Academy. My boy Josh Snow has been really working with me a lot with wrestling this camp and last camp, and just taking me to next levels of my wrestling. Shout out to Millie World, of course. Shout out to Blue Phoenix, my boy Copley. Of course, my Gorillas at War, man. Love y'all. Wouldn't be here without y'all.
Well, Rainn, really appreciate your time. I'm really looking forward to your fight here in the next few weeks, and we will be doing it again soon.